Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Could you share with us what the core focus for Springboard Research is and what you guys are passionate about?
Sure. I was at a big player in this industry for a number of years, IDC. I co-founded Springboard Research about 5 years ago.
We all know IDC.
Yeah. That's right. And we set up Springboard because a lot of the traditional players were founded a long time ago. IDC was founded in the 60s, Gartner was founded in the 70s, and we saw opportunities to make the research model more nimble, more modern through offshoring technology. So what we're passionate about is improving our industry and providing an alternative, a more modern type of approach. That's what gets us excited. You know, not creating another type of company that's already there, but shaking things up and thinking differently. Right?
Could you share with us your insights or observations on SaaS per se? And I think we should decode what SaaS is, right?
Absolutely.
And then talk about some of the trends that you are observing.
Okay, sure. SaaS is, you know, when we set up the company, it's when SaaS was starting to take off, and we saw the opportunity behind SaaS, and we're a leader in SaaS research now, not just in Asia, but globally. SaaS is a model where you pay to use the software, you don't technically own the software, and it oftentimes it resides off-site. So you use another company's software resources and you'll effectively rent it for your organization. So that's SaaS.
Okay.
SaaS now is, cloud computing is similar to SaaS. SaaS is effectively a part of cloud computing. So that's what SaaS.
Which continues to grow.
Continues to grow and evolve, and that's now the hottest buzzword basically. So SaaS leaders like Salesforce.com now refer to the cloud almost as much or more than they do SaaS.
Okay.
Yeah, the market's exploding. I mean, it's
yeah.
growing at 3, 4, 5 times traditional software sales, and that's going to continue for a number of years.
And what's the reason for that?
I think there are a number of reasons. One is that you don't have to invest in a lot of infrastructure to use it, and so the CapEx goes way down. I think it's easier to install, easier to use, the risk goes down, and I think one of the things that is also critical with it is that it's really closely aligned to business issues and business value. The technology in its own right really solves nothing. It's what that technology can do.
Yeah.
And SaaS goes straight to addressing business issues rather than getting muddled in a lot of technologies that your average business user doesn't care about and shouldn't care about, frankly.
One of the questions I frequently get from our customers is they still question the long-term value of this model because the cost of ownership ends up being high over a period of time, and especially when it's a large company. What are your thoughts on that? How can these companies, the customers, as well as the software providers balance that out?
Well, I think one thing is that they have to look at the total cost of ownership, right? So it's commonly known that the initial investment you make in a software license or in a server is a small fraction of the cost to the company in terms of the staff to maintain it, the skills that you need for it, and the scalability investments that you need to make. So I think the first thing I'd say is you have to look at the total cost of ownership. You know, we just had an event today on SaaS, and we had a number of companies talk about the business value that was generated through it. So I think focusing on the total cost of ownership, realizing, you know, it's not a silver bullet, so it can't solve every problem they have, but there's no question that it's something that they should be looking at and thinking about and considering the whole aspect, the whole cost continuum, if you will. And I think another thing I would say is that in time, what's going to happen is SaaS pricing will become more precise. Right now it's rather crude.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you pay per user, and your user could use it 1 minute, or they could use it for 48 hours a month, and they're paying the same price. The example I gave today is when you use electricity, you don't have 6 people in your home and pay $50 a month for each one, right?
Yeah.
You pay for what they use, and I think SaaS is going to go in that direction.
And are there any trends in Asia? I mean, we're sitting here in Singapore today, beautiful sunny day, but are there any trends in Asia that we're seeing?
Asia.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing with Asia is that it doesn't have as much of the legacy infrastructure as North America or Europe or Japan, so it can bypass some of these phases.
So leapfrog
the older technologies, and they have less to overcome. I think in Asia as well, for a lot of companies, especially small and mid-sized companies, it's a choice between SaaS and nothing, because they don't have the means, a lot of them, to invest heavily in servers and infrastructure. So I think those would be some of the key trends. Another point is that Asia leads in technology adoption for a lot of things, right? If you look at Korea and Japan on the handset it leads the world.
Yeah,
And,
I was actually going to say that if anything, I think we'll see more convergence of mobile apps
right.
and cloud computing all together. I mean,
Right.
it is on pay-per-use basis, but I think the usage platform will also be
yeah.
quite different.
And, you know, one of
for
our
you.
sponsors today was Google, right? And they're talking about, I think he said today that their Google applications, they're having something like 3,000 downloads a day.
Wow.
And he's just seeing that pace really.
3,000 downloads a day.
Yeah, so they're
Wow.
they see it just really taking off.
Excellent.